Hello, this is Brian with 7 and All, and today I want to show you a design that I've been working on. It has to do with making a stand for a laptop computer and a printer. I noticed that when I'm using my laptop computer, after a while my neck really aches as I'm not in good posture. So oftentimes I will find a box, cardboard box, and set my computer up, or then plug in an external keyboard to be able to type. And this really helps with raising the monitor up so that my eyesight is horizontal and my neck is straighter. Boxes that are level tend to be hard to find, and the computer tends to still move around and probably not get good ventilation underneath the computer, as well as it looks really bad having an old junky looking box under a computer, and somebody might grab the box and take it away. So wanted to find a better way. After building a 3D printer, I became familiar with 2020 aluminum extrusion and bought the various pieces that I needed for it. They arrived and I began to work on how to assemble them and did a quick design in my CAD program. And started one day by taking all the packages I had and began laying out the parts and pieces. This was my first time to actually, on my own, work with 2020 aluminum extrusion. 2020 means 20 millimeters on each side. So its width is 20 and 20 millimeters thick, and it comes in different lengths. So I bought 200 millimeter lengths for the sides and 300 millimeter lengths for the ends. And this is how we start. You need some T-nuts for the slides, for the grooves, and then the bolts, and then an angle bracket that holds the one piece to another. You also need like an Allen wrench to turn the bolts tight. Kind of keeping it loose for now, but not too tight until you kind of have it approximately in the position that you want and need, and then it can start taking shape. All right, with one side finished, then I began working on the other side. Again, the sides were made with 200 millimeter lengths of aluminum extrusion, and the brackets on the four corners to hold each of them in place, using the T-nuts that slide in from the ends, and then the bolt that holds it in place. Once I had two sides finished, it was time to add in the links between the two sides. Again, the middle part, the length of it was going to use the 300 millimeter length of aluminum extrusion. So I first started putting the angle brackets on the sides, and then getting the T-nuts into the middle part so that I could attach the legs one by one and get them fitted in where they needed to go. Alright, 3 legs are in place, and time to put in the 4th and final leg. A little bit tricky here, just getting them all in place, and I found that I had to dig into other hardware to have enough of the right size bolts, as I had lots of brackets and lots of T-nuts, but not enough of the smallest bolt that would keep it tight and in place. Thankfully, I had a few more boxes of various size bolts. So it's good to have all the hardware you need and some extra so that your project can go well. All right, so once that was completed, I went back to the first side that I had assembled and put on the angle brackets onto the inside to prepare it for the legs to go into the grooves and the slots and just be ready to tighten those when I set them in. Obviously it's going to be a bit trickier having all 4 legs on the other side and have to set it in place, so trying to get as prepared as I could here by having the angle brackets in place and having the T-nuts ready to go. Well, I found that I did run out of the bolts that I needed for it, and I needed to make a little washer, so I quickly designed a washer in my CAD program based on the washer that I was using. Pretty simple to just design up the 2 circles and make a thickness ring. I then exported it into my slicer program and just copied it over a bunch of times. It's always good to check the extrusion of the extruder and the profile and see what arrangement they will be printed in, and do that before you hit go as just a way to double check and see that everything's okay, that everything looks like it should. So just take extra time once you're doing the slicing software to check that everything is going to be printed as you want it to. A really fun part about this project was that I was able to use my 3D printer, which is a Creality Ender 3 V2 version 2. I got to use it a couple times, and I think that shows the handiness of having a 3D printer. When you need a part and it can be printed in a plastic type of material, if you can design it, you can print it. And these washers were just basically spacers, since I didn't have the small enough bolt to tighten the T-nuts in for the extrusion and the angle brackets. So using this simple little design of a ring washer, I printed off 30 of these, and it printed really nice. Sometimes printing multiple parts you can get a lot of stringing in between the parts, but these came out really nice, and they look just really great coming off being printed on the bed here. Then once they came off the bed, I really was very happy with them. Well, once the printed materials cooled and I could take it off the bed, I had plenty to work with, so it was time to get started again on the other end of the stand and to get the bolts set up with those washers, spacers to use. And so getting that set up so that I can put in the 4 legs that are already assembled. It's going to be a little bit tricky here, but having it all set up and ready is the best part. Well, Well, dropping the four legs of the stand into position of the second side was really cool because at that point I could actually start seeing what I had envisioned in my mind and what I had designed in my CAD program start to take shape. The actual box stand made out of aluminum extrusion and wasn't finished yet. Still had to get everything tightened down and was a little bit tricky to tighten, but also still put the T-nuts in place. So it took some uh, finesse and some work to get that all lined up and kind of leave it a little bit loose, but also tighten it down as needed once it was in the right place. But yeah, starting to see it come together here was an exciting part of the project. Some of you might be interested to know, well, what was the cost to make this? Like if you're comparing to a cardboard box, it's going to be considered expensive. But partly it was just to try out something new and to learn how to design something and work with a new material, the aluminum extrusion. Um, when you look at the various pieces and parts and accessories that went into this, the cost was approximately $33, $34. Um, Again, I have some leftover parts, so it's not exactly the cost. Also, I printed some of the pieces and parts for it myself. The washers here, and another part you'll see later on. But yeah, it's something that is just kind of a fun thing to do. Have you had any experience with aluminum extrusion? Have you built anything with it? Maybe you have some tips and tricks on working with aluminum extrusion too. Again, as this was my first time really designing something with it, it was pretty new to me, so it was quite the learning experience, even with all the pieces and parts just pretty much ready to go. But I think I learned a lot from it and feel more comfortable working with it for the future. and I think it could serve for a lot of different uses as well. So give it a try. So I had purchased some end caps for the aluminum extrusion to fit in, but they were too tight. Must be the size wasn't quite right. So I found this part on Thingiverse and downloaded it, and I printed it. Here's the slicer program set up to print 6 of them after I printed 2 singly. Here's a photo on the printer after printing them. So again, the second piece that got printed for the project. And then just installing them into the ends of the aluminum extrusion. It was a tight fit, but that was good. Then I know they'll stay in place, and yeah, just protect the aluminum extrusion, but also keep it from scratching anything, as well as having a sharp edge that could scratch you or give you a cut or something. So fitting them in took just a little bit of tapping to get them in place, but I'm glad that they fit in nice and snug. And I'll put a link to this one in the description below. You might need to just print one part, see if it works. There's a couple different designs on Thingiverse for it, or you could try your hand at designing a part too and use that for end cap. And here we are. Here's the finished product. I've just put it on a little stand here so I could spin it and rotate it and show you how it looks. I also set it up on its side. You can use it, of course, in either direction, and depending upon what height you might want it. So it's ready to go. So let's put our computer on it. I've got my external keyboard and setting up my computer. So nice. It's got the height I need it, and I can look straight at it without straining my neck. And this will be good. It's got a lot of ventilation underneath, I think, which will also be really nice for the computer. As well as the other design was to set a printer on it and have it up off the table, and with the space below have some handy storage for paper to be stored right there, so taking up less space. Thanks for watching.